Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. So welcome children to yet another lesson in standard 9th English. So today we will continue with the lesson that we were doing last time, that is we were doing lesson number 4.2 last time, and the name of the lesson was The Storyteller by H. Munro. Now when we talked about the lesson last time in the previous video, we saw the entire story of the lesson using pictures. Alright, we saw how the train moves along, and in the particular train, in a carriage, there is a lady with her nephews and nieces, okay, and she is trying to keep them entertained, but they are not at all happy with the story that she's telling them. And then we have a stranger or a bachelor who's a stranger to these people. He entertains the children by telling them a very different story. So what was a moral, or what was the main idea of the story we saw last time? So let us move on and see part 2 of that particular lesson, the storyteller. So what was the main idea or moral behind the story which the bachelor told the children? He said, or he arrived at the moral that not only good things happen to good people. So even if you're very good, sometimes in life bad things can happen to you, because life is all about ups and downs. There are some days which are good and there are some days which are not so good. So that was a moral of the story, and there was a conflict of interest over here. Now whenever you tell stories to children, whenever someone tells you a story, the moral always has to be good, isn't it? Someone has to always tell you that you should do good, that you should be honest, that you should help people, because if you're good, then good will happen to you. But in this story, the ending was a little different. So you might be very good, but even then bad things could happen to you. So this was a little different, and the aunt was not very happy with this kind of a story being told to the children. So this was all discussed last time when we did the video. So if you have any doubt, or if you want to see the story again, you can go back and watch the previous video. Let us now move on and do certain exercises from your textbook. So we have an exercise based on prefixes. Now, like you know, prefix and suffix together, they are called as affixes. Okay. So in this particular chapter, we are going to talk only about prefixes. So let us discuss what the meaning of prefix is. So what is the definition of prefix, children? Prefix means letters which are added before a root word. Okay. So before the beginning of a word, when letters are added to it, some letters are added, those particular letters are called as prefixes. Now why are prefixes added? To change the meaning of certain words. So when you add a prefix to a particular word, that prefix changes the meaning of the entire word. Alright. For example, let us look at some examples now. See, you have the word lucky. Okay. When I add the prefix un to it, the word becomes unlucky. So see, lucky means someone who is blessed. Unlucky means someone without any luck. So this becomes the opposite in meaning. So prefixes can change the meaning of words. Then you have cooked is a word. When I add the prefix un to it, it becomes uncooked. That means raw. Cooked means something which has been processed. Uncooked means something which is raw. So you see how adding a prefix can change the meaning of words. Alright, let us look at some examples where prefixes are added to change the meaning of the word or to make a new word. So dress, undress. When you dress means you put on your clothes. When you undress means you take off your clothes. Okay. Equal, unequal. Equal means same. Unequal means not same. Fair, unfair. Fair means something which is not partial. But when you say unfair, when someone is partial, when someone is showing a little bit of, you can say, preference to someone and not showing preference to the other person, you say it is not fair, it is unfair, you say. Okay. And then you have fit and unfit. This person is fit for the job, you say, that means this person is good enough to work on this job. When you say the person is unfit, it means that person is not good enough to work on a particular job. Okay, so these are how, when you add certain prefixes, the entire meaning of the word changes. Sometimes the word can become opposite in meaning. All right. So this was about prefixes and suffixes, the meaning. Now we are supposed to do some exercises where you are supposed to find 4 words that begin with the prefix un, and then you have to write their opposites. So that is why I picked up all the prefixes which started with un. Okay, so come on, pause the video here and scan the story and try to find out words which begin with the prefix un, and then you will write their opposites. Okay, so unable, remove the un, it becomes able. See the opposite. Then you have unhappy. You remove the un, it becomes happy. Then you have uninteresting. You remove the un, it becomes interesting. Finally, you have unsympathetic. You remove the un here, it becomes sympathetic. You have one more here now, unexpected. You remove the un, it becomes expected. So you see how after removing the un, the words have become opposite in meaning. Unable became able. Unhappy became happy. Uninteresting became interesting. Unsympathetic became sympathetic. Unexpected became expected. Alright, so this is one exercise where we've used the prefix un. Now, the same thing. This is how it is given in the textbook. There are a few more here now. So you have unenterprising, which has become enterprising. Uninteresting we already saw. Unhappy becomes happy. Untidy becomes tidy. Okay. And then you have unwell, which becomes well. Alright. So we have around 7 to 8 new words here. When you remove the un, you get the opposite. Let us move on to the next exercise where you are supposed to read the pieces from the story. So the story, pieces from the story means the paragraphs from the story. So this is an exercise in comprehension, children. Now whenever you have your English paper, whether it is a 9th standard exam paper, when you go to the 10th standard next year, you have questions based on comprehension. That is, you have a passage which you have seen, and then you've seen passage comprehension. That is, you know, you have read this passage in the textbook. You're supposed to read it and answer certain questions for comprehension. Comprehension means what? How much of the language have you understood? Okay. So, suggesting a title. Here you're supposed to suggest a title. Now, again, you will be opening your English textbook and you will be coming to the paragraphs which starts with, for example, the first one. It was a hot afternoon. You will start from there, you will start reading, and you will end at said the aunt weakly. So you will read this part of the story and then you will try to give it an independent title. You will try to give it a heading. Okay, so only if you have understood the paragraph, only if you have comprehended the paragraph, only then you will be able to give the title. Okay, so this is where you are supposed to read the paragraph properly. When you were searching for these words, you just skimmed through the paragraph. You just looked at it to find out the words. You did not go in deep and read it. But here you are supposed to go in deep and try and read the paragraph and find out what the title could be. What is the main idea there? So, in this particular case, in the first one, the answer is children pester their aunt. What did they do? What were they doing to their aunt? They were continuously asking her questions. Okay? And they were pestering. Pestering means they were troubling their aunt. Now, likewise, you pause the video here and try to locate the other paragraphs. Try to read them nicely, properly, and try to suggest titles. Then come back and check your answers with mine. So come on, let's check our answers. So the second paragraph is, the smaller girl created a diversion, likely to lose his bet. So here you could call this repeating a song over and over. Now children, once again, this is a subjective activity. I think that this could be the name of the title. I feel that this could be the title. You can suggest some other name also as per your understanding. Only thing, it should not be wrong. It should match it. In a low, confidential voice, "It was so stupid," said Cyril. Aunt's attempt at storytelling. So the story which aunt said, Cyril did not like the story at all. He said it is the most boring story I have ever heard. Okay. So what is this based on? It is based on aunt's attempt at storytelling. Next, she, that is Bertha, did all that she was told. Must be an extra good child. So it is Bertha, the good child. So this entire part of the passage talks about the good qualities that Bertha has. That is why the name of the text could be, or the title of the text could be, Bertha, the good child. Then you have the storyteller paused to let popular tunes of the day. So here the answer is description of a royal garden. Then Bertha was trembling very much. The 3 medals for goodness. So this could be titled Goodness Always Doesn't Pay, which is the main idea or main moral of the story which the stranger told to the children, and which the children quite surprisingly found very interesting. Okay, so this is the exercise based on comprehension from your textbook. Let us talk about the next exercise, which is based on punctuation mark. So what are punctuation marks in English? Punctuation marks are those marks which are used in order to lend proper meaning to the words in a paragraph. So there are various punctuation marks that you have been learning about. So you have full stop, or it is also called as a period sometimes. Okay, full stop. When you end a sentence, you use a full stop. Then you have comma. When you want to pause the sentence, you use a comma and then you continue writing. Okay, so you have the comma, you have the question mark when you want some information. When you're asking a question, it always ends with a question mark. Then you have a semicolon or semicolon. Semicolon and the colon almost have the same kind of, you can say, job to do in the English language. Then you have an apostrophe, then the colon here, then you have round brackets, these which are also called as the parentheses, the round brackets. Then you have the exclamation mark, or sometimes it is also called as the exclamation point. So these are all the different punctuation marks that are used in the English language. Alright, now we do not have to learn about all these punctuation marks here. There are 2 exercises based on 2 of these punctuation marks. So let us see what they are. But before that, let us learn a little bit more about these punctuation marks. Some extra information. So what are punctuation marks? Punctuation marks are important in writing because it is where you can show emphasis or pauses to your reader. Now when someone is speaking, we use pause, we use a tone, we use pitch, okay, and we halt when at certain times in order to lay stress. But when you are reading from a paragraph, when someone is writing, there is no way that that person can pause and leave some blank space. So at that times, punctuation marks are used in order to let the reader understand what you want to convey. So just like we use pauses in the spoken language, just like we use stress in the spoken language, punctuation marks are used in the written language. Okay. Punctuation marks can change the meaning also of sentences. The entire meaning of sentence can change if the punctuation marks are used in the wrong place. Alright, for example, see here, who is calling Joe? So we are saying Joe is a person, but who is the person who's calling him? Okay, look at the next example. Who is calling Joe? So we are asking Joe who is calling. We are not bothered about whether Joe is being called by someone. I hope you understand what the difference in meaning is. Who is calling Joe? Who is calling Joe? Okay, so see, you can see highlight the importance of this comma here. Then you have, without punctuation marks, a written work is like a jumbled mass of words without any divisions to mark pauses and breaks in thought. So if a writer wants to show that there is a break in his thought, or if he wants to put a pause to his sentence, he has to make use of punctuation marks. Alright, so that is how punctuation marks are important. Let us look at this very, very interesting example. There are two pictures here. Same words, but in the first one, there is a punctuation mark which is missing, and then the meaning of the sentence becomes horrible. Let's eat grandma. That means let's take grandma on a plate and let's gobble her up. Let's eat grandma. Okay, just like we say let's eat this ice cream, we're saying let's eat grandma. Look at the next one. Let's eat, comma, grandma. So here you are inviting grandma to eat with you. You are not planning to eat your grandma. Can you see how the comma makes all the difference? Okay, so this is how punctuation marks are very, very important and crucial in conveying meaning as far as written language is concerned. Now let's go to the textbook and try to figure out our answers to the exercise which they have given us. So find one example of the following punctuation mark from the story and copy the sentence in which they are used. So we are going to talk about the colon now. So let's understand what a colon is. So see, the two dots, one below the other, is an example of colon. So what is a colon used for? The colon is used to separate two independent clauses when the second one explains or illustrates the first. So when there is a sentence which is giving the meaning of the first sentence, or which is explaining the first sentence, there are two clauses written together, then the colon is used in the middle of these two clauses. The semicolon is also used for the same reason. Okay, so this, children, is the colon. Now we know about full stop, we know about comma, we know about exclamation mark, and we know about question mark. We are not very well versed with these punctuation marks. So that is why the textbook is discussing about these particular punctuation marks. So what is this? This is a colon. And why it is used? It is used to separate two independent clauses. Okay. So let us look at the example sentence here where there is a colon used in the textbook. They have asked you to find out one. So then he resumed. And then there is the colon. I've picked up one more example. Thought to herself. And there is a colon. Okay. So it is basically used to join two parts of the sentences together. Then we have a semicolon. Now I told you a semicolon also works in pretty much the same way as a colon does. It has got the same kind of use. So look at the example sentences. He walked down the platform of Templecombe station. He heard the sound of metals clinking and stopped to listen. Okay, so this is how semicolon is used. Now what you can do is, you can pick up any newspaper, any magazine, and write two examples of instances where the colon is used and the semicolon is used respectively. Alright, so this is one exercise. Now we go to the last part of this lesson, where there is a very interesting exercise about words which are easily confused. And here the words which we are using are say or tell. So say and tell are two words which are both irregular verbs. And people get easily confused with whether to use say or whether to use tell. But let me tell you once again, just like the colon and the semicolon are very similar in use, in the same way, say and tell are also very similar in use. There is a slight difference which we will try to highlight now. Both of them are irregular verbs. What is the meaning of irregular verbs? See, when I say cook, it is cooked. When I say look, it is looked. But when I say, what is the past tense? It is said. And tell is told. And that is why these are irregular verbs. So both of them, they are irregular verbs, but they are sometimes confused with each other. So say focuses on the words someone said. Okay, see, say focuses on the words. Tell focuses on the content of the message of what someone said. So the words are important. When you talk about say, what words someone else is saying, you have said it directly. Whereas when you are talking about tell, when you're using tell, you're focusing on the content. You might not repeat the same words, but you're trying to tell the other person what the meaning of that message was. So say focuses on the words and tell focuses on the content or what the message of what someone said was. Okay? So this is one major difference between say and tell. See, look at the way say is used. So in the past tense or the past participle form is said to indicate who speaks the word quoted. So the words which are exactly said, whatever words are coming out from the mouth of the person who's speaking, that when you use, you say said. There's going to be a parents meeting next Monday, the principal said. So you're quoting the principal. This is what the principal said. Okay. So remember, say is followed by the preposition to when the person to whom the thing is said is expressed. So you are right. He said to me. Okay. So sometimes or most of the times when you say or when you say said, it is followed by the preposition to also to indicate to whom it was told or to whom it was said. Moving on, let us go to the next one. How will you use tell? Why would you use tell? We would use tell to convey when the message is important, the content is important, then we use tell. So to let a person know something, that is when you want to give information to someone, you are not going to focus exactly on the words which were said, but you will focus on the information which is hidden in those words. Okay, I'll tell them when they get here. So tell, to give information. You also use tell when you want to order someone. The policeman told us to wait. So he was ordering us. In a way, we had no choice. He told us that we have to wait. Then we can also use tell to find out. For example, see, by observing, my little brother has learned to tell time. To tell time means to find out what the time is. How did my little brother know that? By observing. Okay. So tell could have all these meanings. And we also saw what said or say could mean. So this is the last exercise as far as this lesson is concerned. So children, let us quickly recap the various things that we did today. So we quickly talked about the main points in the story that we did last time in the first video. If you want to get a reference to the story, you can always go back and watch the previous video which I have. Okay. Then we did various exercises. For example, we talked about prefix. Particularly, we talked about the prefix un. That is when you apply the prefix un to a word, you get the opposite of that particular word. Then we also talked about comprehension, where you read a particular passage, you try to understand what the meaning of the words in the passage is, and then you try to give a title to the text there. So that is comprehension, understanding, comprehending. Okay. And finally, we talked about punctuations, where we talked about the colon and the semicolon. And we also tried to locate some examples of colon and semicolon from our textbook. And in the last part, we looked at two words which are usually confused with each other. That is the meaning of say and the meaning of tell. This is the last exercise also in your textbook. We tried to understand what the meaning of say is and when do you use the word say, and then we saw what the meaning of tell is, when do you use the word tell, and various instances where we use say and where we use tell. But remember, let me tell you, there is a very slight or minor difference in the meaning of say and tell, and it will not be wrong if you sometimes use one instead of the other. Alright, so this was a really long lesson and it has taken us 2 videos to complete this lesson. So hope the story was enjoyable to you, and also hope the various exercises we did also has given you a lot of information about English. So that is all for today. Thank you so much, children.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.